Hello. Today I'm going to share a research project that I've been thinking about for a while. I want to explore how inconsistencies in the Harvard referencing practice impacts first-year business students in the UK higher education system, and what we as educators and librarians can do to address it. This is an issue I often see in my daily interactions with students. Without going into much detail, but to give context to people not familiar with the UK higher education system, the Harvard system is something of a misnomer, as there is no official institutional connection. It is another name for the author-date citation system, the custom of using the author and date in parentheses to refer readers to the full bibliographic citations in bibliographies. Some Harvard faculty were among the first practitioners in the late 19th century, and the name stuck, particularly in the UK and Commonwealth countries. It is not like APA or MLA, where there is an organization setting standards. There are some conventions that everyone follows, but if you look at Harvard style guides online, they are all slightly different. For example, some use a comma in the in-text parentheses between author date, some do not. This leads to confusion when students are learning about citations, especially students who are learning about citations for the first time. Many of us assume that students come to the university with basic understanding of citations. In the UK business schools, where Harvard referencing dominates but is inconsistently applied, this assumption can lead to real confusion. This is especially true in schools like mine, where we have international students who come from educational systems that do not emphasize citations. This project was inspired by the reoccurring questions I receive in my library when doing library instruction or one-on-one sessions with students, where students are really unsure of whether they are doing citations correctly. This project speaks to multiple groups. Primarily, it is aimed at academic librarians, business school faculty, and curriculum developers, those that are directly involved in teaching and supporting citation practices. Secondly, it is relevant to creators of citation guides and researchers interested in information literacy and pedagogy. The plan is to publish findings in a peer-reviewed journal and potentially present them through a poster or lightning talk at a conference. The article format allows for a deep dive into data and recommendations, while conference participation offers real-time feedback for practitioners. The focus of this presentation will be on the process of choosing a journal for the article. I considered 3 journals that I thought would best fit my research and needs. First, there was the Journal of New Librarianship for its openness to innovative and practice-based work. Library and Information Science Research, which is focused on research process in library and information science. And lastly, Reference Services Review, which focuses on library instruction and reference services. As I went through the pros and cons of each journal, it helped me narrow down to the correct journal for my submission. Here is some submission info for these journals. I am very interested in open source. However, my current institution does not pay for article processing charges for non-faculty. I could apply for a grant from other institutions, but this would add time to my timeline. So this is a factor in my selection. I also looked at the rankings of the journal. Both the Library and Information Science Research and References Services Review is highly ranked. The Journal of New Librarianship is not ranked. Although it lacks formal ranking, the Journal of New Librarianship offers an accessible and supportive venue for innovative or practitioner-oriented research, especially for early career scholars and also emerging topics. It may not carry the same academic weight for tenure or promotion in some institutions, so this might be a factor for some people. I also liked that it is not distributed by one of the larger publishing companies. It is distributed by the University of Colorado Boulder. So this is something that was important to me. Library and information science research is an excellent venue for well-developed research-driven articles aiming for wider academic recognition. But it does have an APC of $3,000 US, which is quite high. It's also very research-based. I do not think that this is going to be the one that I choose. I just don't think that it is aligned with what my article is or the reach that I want my article to have. A solid choice for applied or instructional LIS research is Reference Services Review. It sort of strikes a balance between the Journal of New Librarianship and the Library and Information Science Research. However, if I want to do open access, it does come with a cost. But it reaches the right audience and it is well indexed. For me personally, it sort of came down to between Reference Services Review and the Journal of New Librarianship, and which one I wanted to do and what was important to me and what I thought would be important outreach for my paper. For my submission, I will try for the Journal of New Librarianship. It is good for early career scholars like me, and it is open access without a fee. It also publishes case studies, which my paper will be. Also, currently, I am not on a tenure track, so I am not as concerned with tenure or promotion. Those are the considerations that are personal to me. I realize that not everyone can make the same decision. It really kind of comes down to a personal choice, and this is what I think is best for my research. My goal is to complete the data collection and drafting phases over the next 6 months, aiming for a submission sometime in the fall. I'll be balancing this timeline with my ongoing PhD work and library responsibilities. However, it's nice that we are not going to have classes over the summer, and also at work, we don't have very many classes in the summer, so I think that I will have some free time that I can work on this. So hopefully I can do most of the writing and things over, between June and August. Here's sort of my submission checklist. I'm planning on perhaps the manuscript being around 5,000 words. Obviously, that could give and take. This is also the really nice thing about the Journal of New Librarianship. I'm not as worried about the exact words. They're pretty open to what is published. I may collaborate with business faculty colleagues for student access and context. Some considerations are institutional access to business students for data collection. Even if I do not have a co-author, I will need faculty or institutional support to get data. Also, potential differences across institutions or citation policies will need to be thought about. This will be looking at just my institution, so it will be a case study and the generalizability will be low. I have learned over the course of our quantitative research course how important generalizability is, so it is important to mention that this will just be a case study. Here are my references. Ultimately, this is a project about helping students succeed, not by simplifying standards, but by clarifying them. Thank you for your attention. I realize that for some of you, talking about the Harvard referencing style is something that you might not be as familiar with, but if you've ever helped undergrads with citations, you know that it can be difficult. So helping them learn about citations and making that process easier, I think, can not just help people using the Harvard referencing style, but, in general, helping students understand citations. Thank you.